Hello again. This is Sherman. Welcome to Q&A Part 2. Chef fools with customers with fake food. Let me remind you of the characters. This is Andy, the chef. This is Bill, the waiter. This is Tony, the customer. And this is the lovely Scarlett, Tony's girlfriend. This is Mark, the doctor. Okay, are we ready? Let's listen and you be ready to see if you can defeat me. Can you defeat me? Let's see.
From now on, I'm ordering only wild salmon.
This restaurant has never had and will never have wild salmon.
Why's that?
Well, you see, suppliers and stores deceive the restaurants and sell them farm salmon under the guise of wild salmon.
How come? Restaurants must check what they buy, right?
Yeah, that's impossible. You cannot distinguish a salmon by eye. A DNA test will help.
Which I assume is rarely done.
Exactly. But the deception goes far past just salmon. Right this way.
Okay, how well did you listen? Here are our questions. Why does Tony decide to order only wild salmon from now on? Because the way the farm salmon has been processed shocks him. Why will many restaurants never have wild salmon? Because suppliers and stores deceive and sell them farm salmon under the guise of wild salmon. What trick do suppliers and stores use to deceive the restaurants? They sell them farm salmon under the guise of wild salmon. What do suppliers sell under the guise of wild salmon to restaurants? It's farm salmon. Can we distinguish between farmed and wild salmon by eye? No, we cannot. That's impossible. How to distinguish them? We have to use the DNA test to do that. What does Tony assume is rarely done? It's a DNA test to distinguish the salmon. Who assumes a DNA test is rarely done to distinguish a salmon? Tony does. What goes far past just salmon? The deception does. Does this deception go far past just salmon? Yes, it does. Okay, it's time to listen.
Read this.
Analysis of seafood samples from restaurants found that 36% were mislabeled. I don't get it. Were they completely different fish?
Yes, and a much cheaper one.
So, if I buy raw fish from the store, there's still a chance I'll get completely different seafood.
Well, according to Oceana research, 1 out of 3 is fake.
Escolar.
Follow me.
How is that even possible?
85.
Okay, it's time for your questions. You ready? What did an analysis of seafood samples from the restaurant found? It found that 36% were mislabeled. What did people analyze from the restaurants? They analyzed seafood samples. How do we know that 36% of seafood samples are mislabeled? The analysis proved it. If Tony buys raw fish from the store, what is he likely to get? He's likely to get fake seafood. Many products are mislabeled. Why are we likely to get fake seafood from the stores? Because many of the seafood products are mislabeled. They're fake. Okay, it's time to listen again.
Possible. 85% of fish in the US is imported, and the fish food supply is very complex and untransparent. Let's say pollock was caught in the Bering Sea and sent to China for processing. And after that, it went right to the United States, where an intermediary sold it to a supplier who will send it to stores or restaurants, where the chefs cook the dish for the customers. As you can see, 1/4 at each stage. And eventually, your dish ends up being a completely different product. But in the case of your fiancé, though, the one to blame is the chef. Because he cooked a cheap fish for a high price.
How can I tell whether I got the seafood I ordered or something totally fake?
Let me show you.
Okay, it's question time. What percent of fish in the U.S. is imported? About 85%. Does the U.S. export 85% of the world's fish? No, it doesn't. 85% of the fish in the U.S. is imported. What is very complex and untransparent? The fish supply chain is. What is the fish supply chain like? It's very complex and untransparent. What was caught in the Bering Sea and sent to China for processing? Pollock was. Who sold pollock to a supplier in the U.S.? An intermediary did. Did an intermediary sell pollock to a supplier in Africa? No, not Africa. They sold it to the supplier in the U.S. What is there at each stage of this fish supply chain? There's a possibility of fraud. It's very complex and untransparent. Why does Tony's dish eventually end up being a completely different product? Because of fraud. In the case of Tony's fiancé, who's the one to blame? The chef is. Why is the chef the one to blame for Scarlett's allergic reaction? Because he intentionally filled the puffs with whiting, not lobster. Okay, time to listen again.
There are 3 major recommendations. If you have doubts in the restaurant, then order seafood without the breading and the sauce. All this can hide the beautiful taste of the fish. Secondly, you can ask the restaurant staff to show you seafood labeling. Always look for fish labeled by controlling organizations such as the Marine Stewardship Council and Best Aquaculture Practices. And the most important one, choose the place wisely. If it's a local restaurant with surprisingly low prices, always remember, a luxurious and rare product is never cheap. because nobody will sell anything at a loss.
I almost lost Scarlett because of this awful fraud. I will do anything to make this...
Don't worry about anything. I took care of it already. I just handled the evidence to the authorities, and those to blame will soon get what they deserve. But you, my friend,
Okay, question time.
you have something more important to do.
What is the first major recommendation to avoid getting fake seafood? If we have doubts, we should order seafood without the breading and the sauce. Why should we order seafood without the breading and the sauce? Because all this can hide the beautiful taste of the fish. What is the second major recommendation to avoid getting fake seafood? You can ask the restaurant staff to show you seafood labeling. What seafood should you always look for? Always look for fish labeled by reliable controlling organizations. What is the most important recommendation to avoid getting fake seafood? You should choose your restaurant wisely. If it's a local restaurant with surprisingly low prices, what must you always remember? A luxurious and rare product is never cheap because nobody will sell anything at a loss. Why is a luxurious and rare product never cheap? Because nobody will sell anything at a loss. Why was Tony furious? Because this awful fraud made him almost lose his fiancée. Who did Mark just hand the evidence to? The authorities. He just handed the proof to them. Why did Mark hand the evidence to the authorities? Because those to blame will soon get what they deserve. Wow, you made it. Did you defeat me? Well, I'm not sure, but I will see you next time. Goodbye.